How's it going, everyone? It's Harvey from Weather Sponge. 1000. Today is December 30th, 2021, and today we're gonna focus on the potentially major snowstorm that's gonna move through the Midwest and bring potentially close to a foot of snow in many areas in the Midwest. And we could see another major snowstorm along the northeast coast that could impact some of the major cities in the northeast, such as Boston, New York City, and even as far south as Washington, D.C. We're gonna take a look and determine the chances of this major snowstorm occurring along the northeast coast in this video. Before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. Make sure to like if you like this video, and make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related content. So let's begin by taking a look at the current radar throughout the entire lower 48 of the United States, and we do have some snow showers that was associated with this trough pretty much coming from the southwesterly direction, moving towards the northeast. And you see that where it's bringing a little bit of snow in the the extreme northern portions of the northeast. However, it's very weak at this point. There isn't enough of a jet stream dip to induce a high amount of convection around this trough, so eventually it should fizzle out as it moves northeastward. We're also taking a look at some thunder showers that is currently occurring right around at the Georgia area and extending to South Carolina. However, again, none of these thunder showers are considered severe, and they won't ever be considered severe from here on out, as there just isn't enough of a jet stream dip to induce severe weather, so nothing to worry about there. And we're also going to take a look at this trough that's currently located right around the Rocky Mountain ranges, and this is going to be our next major snowstorm for the Midwest that could dump close to a foot of snow in many areas. We have this Arctic trough pretty much coming from the Pacific Northwest, moving southeasterly, and we have this other trough, the subtropical trough, that's currently just to the west of Baja California and the state of California, and it's expected to move northeastward, and eventually these two troughs will converge, and that will create enough instability for the next major snowstorm in the Midwest to occur, and potentially our next major snowstorm to the northeast. But first, let's take a look at the chances of our northeast snowstorm that could happen as soon as Monday, and then we'll talk more about the snowstorm that's more closer in the future, which is the major Midwest snowstorm. So if we were to take a look at around the 90-hour mark, Monday into the new year of January 3rd, we do see a pretty strong low pressure system located right around the Carolinas. So to really show you the anatomy of the next potential northeast snowstorm, like I said, we're going to see two troughs converge right around the Rocky Mountain ranges, and that should create an unstable environment for a large amount of precipitation to develop right around the midsection of the country, where we could see some severe weather right around the southeast and the Mississippi River Valley. But further northward, I'd say just north of St. Louis, it's going to be pretty much a winter weather event where you're going to experience heavy snowfall throughout the Midwest associated with this low pressure system, and you guys need to pay close attention to the Midwest. However, what becomes interesting is that on the backside of this trough or this cold front, we see a jet stream dip pronounced enough to the point where we're going to see an extremely high amount of instability around southeast, because you see the Arctic air from Canada drops all the way down as far south as Texas and Louisiana. And of course, since that cold Arctic air is extremely close in proximity to the warmer air mass that's located right around the Gulf of Mexico, and that's pretty much fueled by the warmer temperatures of the Gulf of Mexico, we're going to see a high amount of instability, because the cold air is going to force a lot of that warmer and lighter and less dense air further upward in the atmosphere, and that will make the air molecules a lot more buoyant in the right around southeast, and buoyant enough to the point where we're going to see a new low pressure system form pretty much as a derivative of this very pronounced jet stream dip that's currently located in the southeast. So if we were to move forward, you see that this low pressure system rapidly develops, I'd say, because at this point, right around the Sunday time frame, you see that there's barely, if not any, well-defined low pressure system located in the southeast. But if we were to move, let's say, maybe 24 hours out to the 96-hour mark, you see the pressure drops down to 992 millibars just off the coast of the northeast. And let me go to the 18Z run because it's a little more updated. But if I were to show you guys what would occur in the 18Z run, you see that the pressure drops down to 990 millibars, and we're seeing extremely heavy snow throughout the mid-Atlantic states, extending to southern New Jersey. The Delmarva Peninsula is just getting pounded by extremely heavy snow in this scenario, and Virginia is getting involved. And in terms of the cities, Washington, D.C. is involved in this heavy snow event. Portions of Philadelphia as well is getting involved, and we could even see New York City get involved. So in this scenario, compared to my last run of the GFS model, it's a little bit more focused in on the eastern portions of the Northeast, the extreme eastern portions. I'm talking about the coastal areas of the Northeast, such as the Jersey Shore. Long Island is getting involved in the heavier snow, the Delmarva Peninsula, and a lot of eastern Virginia is getting involved in heavy snow in this scenario, while for the areas just outside, believe it or not, such as New York City and Boston and Philadelphia, there could be that possibility that if the GFS model is correct, that those cities will be a little bit too far west from the heaviest snowfall, since the snow will be focused in more on the extreme coastal areas. If, of course, the GFS model, this case was correct, which is still a very big if, especially if we compare it to the European model, which in the European model, isn't taking really anything behind this trough moving through. While it does agree that there's still going to be a major snowstorm in the Midwest, that's pretty much undisputed at this point by the two main computer models. It becomes uncertain right after the slow pressure system moves out, because the European doesn't expect the jet stream dip that's going to be pronounced enough for a low pressure system that's well defined enough to bring a heavy snow event throughout the eastern coast of the Northeast. And that should definitely raise uncertainty with this forecast, because when we have two of the main computer models completely in disagreement regarding if there's even going to be a major snowstorm or not, that really raises the uncertainty with this forecast. And even though we're only around 4 days out from this potential event, there's still high uncertainty, which at this point isn't something you typically see. I'd see this type of uncertainty when the forecast is typically 5 days on or 5 days out or beyond that, but we're seeing the uncertainty still remain 4 days out. So you guys in the Northeast need to pay very close attention to the computer models and how they update over the next several days, because we could have a scenario where we won't really know for certain if we're going to see a major snowstorm, potentially only as late as 2 days out from the actual event. So you guys need to be prepared to be spontaneous in an event like this, because when the computer models are this uncertain, when we're relatively close to the day of this potential event happening, then it really doesn't give you guys a lot of time to prepare when the forecast becomes uncertain. So make sure to keep in mind of the computer models. While your current forecast might not forecast snow for you guys around the Monday timeframe, for now, you guys need to be prepared. There's that possibility that forecast could quickly change if the European model potentially changes to fit more in line with the GFS model. We have to see which one's right, because I think there's an equal shot we will get some sort of major snowstorm somewhere in the Northeast, or we'll get no snow, little to no snow at all in the Northeast. So this is going to be one of those forecasts you guys need to pay close attention to. But what will determine if we will see a major snowstorm in the Northeast really all depends on how pronounced this jet stream dip will be, and if we will see enough cold air this far south to create enough lift in the atmosphere for a well-defined low pressure system to develop. In the European model's case, it doesn't expect the instability to be as high as the GFS model. So as a result, the European model does not want to develop a low pressure system. However, if we were to take a look at the GFS model, it's a completely different scenario where a GFS model does forecast just enough instability in the southeast right around the Sunday timeframe for a well-defined low pressure system to develop, and as a result, a very powerful storm to develop. So you see that we see heavy snow throughout the northeast, as this would be major. And you're probably wondering, how much snow should you expect if the GFS model's case was correct? So let's take a look at the forecasted snowfall accumulation. Again, this is based on the assumption that 1 inch of rain, precipitable rainfall, will equate to 10 inches of snow. So it isn't 100% accurate because every snowstorm is different, and that ratio isn't entirely the same all the time. But if we were to take a look at the snowfall forecast, it is at least around the ballpark of what the GFS model would expect in terms of the snowfall accumulation in the northeast. You see that a lot of areas in the northeast are receiving well over a foot of snow in this scenario. We're talking about eastern Virginia. The Delmarva Peninsula is receiving over a foot of snow, and you see that Washington D.C. is pretty much right on the border of 6 to 12 inches of 3 to 6, as this could be a major snowstorm for you guys in Washington D.C. if the GFS model was correct, or at least around the ballpark with this forecast. And even if you move further northward, you see a lot of southwest eastern New Jersey, you're experiencing heavy snow as well. And for Philadelphia and New York City, it's going to be one of those rare cases where instead of the rain snow line being pretty much hugging the Interstate 95 corridor, which extends from Boston, New York City, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and Washington, D.C., it's going to be one of those cases where the snow and dry line will pretty much hug the Interstate 95 corridor as opposed to the rain snow line. So, and what I mean by that is that if you're to the northwest of the Interstate 95 corridor, you're less likely to receive any sort of major snowfall. However, if you're to the southeast of the Interstate 95 corridor, then you're likely to receive major snowfall out of this. But this is assuming the GFS model's case is correct, which is still, again, highly uncertain because the European model does not want to bring any sort of snow. So we need to see if this forecast stays for fruition, or if the European model eventually wants to mimic the GFS model when it comes to a forecast. We're going to need to wait maybe another day or two before we can say with certainty if this snowstorm will form along the East Coast. But make sure to at least be aware of this in the Northeast. If we were to take a look at the European model, you see it's forecasting little to no snow at all. Maybe a dusting right around the Delmarva Peninsula in the eastern half of Virginia, but pretty much nothing when it comes to the European model's case. So at least be aware of this in the Northeast, because we could see a major snowstorm along the Northeast coast as early as Monday, and it could happen, and we could begin forecasting this at a very quick time frame relative to when we're certain with the forecast and when the event actually happens. So you need to be prepared to be spontaneous and prepare in case of a snowstorm along the Northeast, because it's going to be one of those scenarios where pretty much the forecast, when we forecast it to be certain and the actual event happening, it's going to be very quick. So make sure to be aware in the Northeast. But next, let's take a look at the major snowstorm that's expected to impact the Midwest in the very near future. Let's first take a look at the European model. And for this snowstorm, it's pretty much inevitable. You're gonna receive major snowfall throughout the Midwest, and this should impact a lot of the big cities as well. So you need to stay prepared throughout the Midwest. So if we were to take a look at the forecast, you see that like I said, we're going to see an Arctic trough coming from the Pacific Northwest moving southeastward, and we're going to see a subtropical trough just off the coast of Baja California move northeastward, and we're going to see these two low pressure systems converge and create an unstable environment for our next major snowstorm for the Midwest to occur. And you see that the Rocky Mountains should receive snowfall for the next 24 hours until it eventually approaches the Midwest, I'd say right around 48 hours from now, right around Saturday, and then around Saturday afternoon to the nighttime hours, it should begin to approach Chicago. So make sure to prepare right around Chicago for heavy snowfall. And there's still questions that remain with the rain snow line because, yes, while I did say there's pretty much, it's pretty much inevitable we're gonna see a major snowstorm. Exactly where, especially close to the rain snow line, is going to be a little bit tricky to forecast, like it is with every snowstorm, because any minuscule changes with the forecast, if you're at least close to the rain snow line, can make a big difference in terms of how much accumulating snow you receive. For the areas further northward, it's pretty much sure this is going to be a major snowstorm. I'm more specifically talking about those close to rain snow line, such as Kansas City, and maybe even as far south as St. Louis. If this storm were to go a little bit further southward, maybe you could get involved in some mixing, but still in St. Louis, more likely than not, this will be a rain event for you guys. Not much in terms of snowfall accumulation, but areas further northward, such as Chicago, Michigan, and extending to Milwaukee, expect a major snowstorm out of this. And in terms of what the European model is forecasting, assuming 1 inch of precipitable rainfall equates to 10 inches of snow, you see that there's a large area of around 3 to 6 inches, with a little bit more than 6 inches of snow in some areas in the Midwest, as that is considered major for you guys. Don't underestimate this storm just because it may not dump a foot of snow in your area, because I've seen snowstorms that only dumped around 2 inches of snow cause major havoc on the roadway. So you can't at all underestimate this snow in the Midwest, especially since it's been quite a while since you guys experienced it. And for a lot of you guys, this will be your first accumulating snowfall for the season, such as in Chicago, where you could receive close to, if not over, 6 inches of snow. And you see just south of Des Moines, you should get involved in some snow. Kansas City should get involved, and extending throughout Kansas and Michigan will get involved in some heavy snowfall. And even the extreme interior portions of the Northeast, such as Maine, and the extreme northern portions of upstate New York and Vermont should get involved in some snow, right around 1 to 3 to maybe 3 to 6 inches. So make sure to prepare in the Midwest. Taking a look at what the GFS model is forecasting. The GFS model wants to bring a little bit more snow, especially right around the Mississippi River Valley, where you are experiencing 6 to 12 inches of snow, and this extends to Chicago as well, so you need to prepare for that. And what's interesting is that the GFS model wants to bring the snow a little bit further southward in the Northeast, so right where Buffalo will get involved, and even areas further southward in upstate New York will get involved, maybe even as far south as maybe Albany, while the most likely scenario is still a rain event, an all rain event for the Albany area. Don't be surprised if you go a couple miles further northward, you might experience some snowfall right just north of the Albany area. So make sure to keep that in mind, that there's a possibility the snow could move further southward as well. Really all depends on the position of the jet stream to determine the trajectory of this low pressure system as it moves eastward. So make sure to keep that in mind throughout the United States. And in terms of my snowfall forecast, so like I said, I'm predicting right around 6 to 12 inches throughout the Midwest, just south of Des Moines, extending to Chicago, and extending to Michigan, and areas in Missouri and Kansas should get involved in 6 to 12 inches or so, which would be major. And I'd say the areas further southward, it does get a little bit tricky when you're in the 3 to 6 and 1 to 3 inch category, because like I said, any minuscule changes could make a big difference in snowfall accumulation. So while you might be forecasted to get rain for now, don't if you're close to where a snowfall accumulation is occurring, don't rule out the possibility that maybe you receive accumulating snowfall, depending if there's minuscule changes. But still expect a rain event, but just don't rule out that scenario. And for the Northeast, I'm expecting, I didn't put a snowfall forecast just yet because I still think it's far too uncertain forecasting snowfall when two of the main computer models are still in disagreement whether this will happen or not. So I'm gonna just leave the forecast that a major snowstorm is possible. So at least be aware of it if you're shaded in the blue in the mid-Atlantic to the Northeast states. So make sure to at least be aware of it in the Northeast. But yeah, guys, I guess that's it for this video. I thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. Make sure to like if you like this video, and make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related content. And I hope you guys have a good day.